Good evening, gang. David Gupple, Thinker Farmer here. So, I've talked a lot in previous episodes about the concept of identity as a farmer. In this episode, I want to dial in exactly what I mean by that. So, behind here, I've essentially got an outline and I'm just going to roll on through it. But first, let me give you a personal testimony of why I'm so adamant about identifying your identity as a farmer and I talk so much about it. So, when I was 18, 19 years old, or even younger than that, as a teenager, I had a lot of passion about farming. I spent hours researching technical aspects of farming, and it was in my specific context as a young 16-year-old farmer. I've already shared my farm story, so a lot of you have heard different aspects, but I'm going to tie it all together here and say that I did not answer the question of my identity or start from that perspective. I essentially decided to go ahead and chase certain aspects of the farming business. I sought to learn about different industries. I learned a lot about vegetables. I learned a lot about broilers. I started my own business. I went after all those things without really dialing in what was my personal mission statement and who I really wanted to be long-term as a farmer. And I wasted a lot of time and energy doing things that did not benefit me. And in hindsight, I can see that I became too narrowly focused in my perspective. And I went after only certain specific goals and ended up making a lot of bad decisions along the way that and I don't want to say that it was all waste, because I did think a little bit about my end goal, but in the bigger picture, I was spending all of my energy trying to become better at raising chickens without really deciding if raising chickens was what I needed to do right then. I was heavily focused on working lots of hours and doing lots of things without really asking if that was what I needed to be doing. Anyway, on down the line, I was making several poor decisions, and it was because I had not sat myself down, dug deep enough to say, who are you really, David, as a farmer? So in this episode, we're going to go ahead and fairly briefly, but also fairly succinctly and overall map out what identity means when I say that on the Thinker Farmer YouTube channel. So, if you remember nothing more about what I mean when I say identity, remember this question. As a farmer, who are you? So, you need to know, I am this, not this. Essentially, part of answering the question of who you are as a farmer is identifying all the things you're not. You need to identify what those things are and avoid them so that when you're watching YouTube videos, reading books, and learning about all sorts of different aspects of farming, you're able to say, I don't need to do these things, and I don't need to research and spend hours chasing rabbit trails, because that is not what I'm going to be as a farmer. For me right now, an example of this would be vegetable farming. I love eating vegetables. I'll do it occasionally just to have a backyard garden, but I am not going to be a vegetable farmer. That's just not me. And I will not spend energy, even though I have books on vegetable farming, I'm slowly going to be giving those books away and getting them out of my library because I do not want my energy and my space in my brain and my library taken up with things that I'm not going to put effort towards. Establishing your identity is essentially about sharpening your pencil and being able to focus in the direction that you need to go. You need to be able to say, and it's not just about, it isn't just about deciding I'm a broiler farmer, I'm a chicken farmer. What it fundamentally means is that you're going to start from a bigger picture of what you want to be in the long haul or who you want to be and work your way in. So it would be things like saying, the two things for me that I want people to identify me as is I'm a farmer, not a farm consultant or a farm finance guy. Not that those things are bad things to do, but I want to be a farmer. And the second thing for me is I want to be a friend to individuals. I don't want to be off on my own and confined to my own world. I want to be as friends with whoever I can be friends with. So what is the reason that I harp so much on identity? It's essentially good decision making. If you do not understand what your identity is, you will not be able to think critically through all of the information and all of the options and choices out there, and you will make bad decisions. It's as simple as that. There's a lot of considerations when it comes to farm identity questions. And these are just a few of them I listed here. What is your belief system? And beliefs is essentially, that's just what you believe to be true about the world around you. Often that can be religious beliefs. So if you are Buddhist, Hindu, Christian, that affects all of your belief systems, and that has to be taken into consideration as you build your farm and your dream. Values. Values are very similar to beliefs, but values, they're different. And values can be summed up with 3 words. What matters most? And for every individual, that's going to be different. You may have a very deep value about how you're going to manage the ecology, how you're going to treat customers on your farm, what kind of protocols and things you're going to allow and do. Paradigms is a 3rd one, and it's also somewhat interrelated with beliefs and values, but again, it is different, and that is simply how you view everything. Do you see an animal as just protoplasm or something to make you money? Do you see it as a beautiful creature that God created, or as just something wonderful that's on equal planes with you? How do you view animals? How do you view nature as a whole? Do you view yourself as part of nature? And to what extent? Performance is another consideration in establishing your identity. A lot of that I put in parentheses there. Skills. What are you good at as a farmer? Are you a big picture thinker? Are you a manager type personality who is always trying to build a better system? Are you an entrepreneurial type where you're always looking for the next big vision and you're ready to lead a team? Are you an incredible technician who is able to, has incredible skills to just get tasks done? What is your performance? What is your special gift? What are your skills? And you have to decide how to use those in your farming career. And they do shape what you can and cannot do. So personality is another consideration. Are you an introverted individual? Are you an extroverted individual? Are you the kind of individual that is going to make really quick decisions? Are you a more methodical individual? All of those decisions are going to affect, I'll use the example of an introverted versus an extroverted individual and say that for me, I know that long range, I can only handle so much interpersonal interaction. For me to be, I can only handle so much. And so if one day I was ever to interact on a multi-person team of 10 or 20 people, I would have to minimize my time there because I know that I'm an introverted individual. I work better on smaller teams and fewer individuals. I work best one-on-one. And lastly on this list here, we have lifestyle. So at the end of it all, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? Do you want to work 7 days a week? Do you want to work 3 days a week? And, how much time do you want for family? How much time do you want to spend on the farm doing chores? And how much time do you want to spend doing maintenance? How much time do you want to spend doing improvements and building things? How many people do you want to include in the business? Is it just going to be you and your family? Is it going to be you and your neighbors? Is it going to be, what is the reasons and who all will be included in it? So then there's the process of establishing your identity. And after having said all this, you might be thinking, well, sounds like I need to come up with my identity before I buy the first animal, drive the first fence post, and whatnot. Well, here's the bottom line. you need to have a starting point for your identity, and you need to start from a bigger picture perspective. Answer as many of these questions as you can, and do record keeping on it so that you can reference it later. But it is going to be an ongoing process. You are never, I won't say you are never going to, but I've been refining my identity for several years now and deciding who I am and who I'm not. And it's going to be an ongoing process. At this point, I still am at a very big picture level of knowing that I want to do ruminants, and I want to manage grass, and I know that I want to be a farmer, and I want to be a friend, and I want to include people in my life. One example of this for me is, it's interesting how all of these considerations interact and overlap. So for me, values, and this is a pretty much universal for every individual, values always trump performance. So even though I know I work best one-on-one because it's easier for me to control things, it's easier for my structured sequential mind to focus, because people matter first and foremost to me, my values of that trump my performance. So even if it would be comfortable for me to just go off and farm alone, my values dictate, and basically my performance has to fall in line under my values. So you have to know these considerations and also understand which matters most. These are not in an exact order. Although generally speaking, I would say your beliefs, your values, and your paradigm matters way more than your performance, your personality, and the ultimate lifestyle you want. But all of them have their place. So you have your starting point. You start from the bigger picture of who you want to be and your beliefs and your paradigms. As time passes, you're going to constantly have to refine your identity. It's an ongoing deal. You may finish it, but it will take years. So it's the critical application here is you need to come up with your own mission statement of what you want to accomplish in the long haul, and we'll discuss that more in another episode. And honestly, I'm going to mention a journal. I've kept a journal now for over a decade, and I can reference things that happened to me when I was an early teenager, and it helps me understand who I was then, how I've changed, and gives me reference points to then decide how can I continue to change and grow forward. In conclusion, what I would say is that, establishing an identity and taking the time to think it through may take many hours. It's worth it, and it's way better than doing damage control after 10 or 20 years of essentially chasing your tail and not really knowing where you're going to end up. You are able to clearly think through and say, these are the things I'm not going to do. This is what I'm going to go after. You can think critically, and you can make decisive decisions and know that you've made the right decision because it is moving you farther in your roadmap. So with that, gang, I'm going to say blessings for the journey and keep it real.